It's just so amazing to me how much depth of information and knowledge that we can glean about ourselves, about the world, through the code of and the language of numbers. The nine is about endings. It's about closures, completions. It's emotional. It's usually where stuff is happening in your life. If it's a personal year, if it's a universal year, it's for everyone that no one's really that fond of. It's having to say goodbye to things. It's having things that are not relevant anymore or useful for us. The one is going to be much more supportive of new agendas, new ideas, that entrepreneurial, visionary, the pioneering sort of energy is what the one brings to the table in 2026. The biggest, I think, challenge with the one is that it can be.
Hello, everyone, and welcome back to the Shifting Dimensions podcast, where we explore the unseen, the unknown, and the transformative moments that shift our understanding of reality. I'm your host, Jumi Moses, spiritual seeker and metaphysical investigator, exploring the mysteries of existence. On the show today, I have the pleasure of speaking with Felicia Bender. Felicia has been on the show a few times. She is known as the Practical Numerologist, and she is devoted to helping audiences uncover their life's purpose and so much more with numerology. She's also the author of 3 books, with her latest book being called The Ultimate Guide to Practical Numerology, Mapping Your Path and Purpose. Felicia is also the resident numerologist for astrostyle.com and is featured in many media outlets, including Refinery 29, Women's Health, Elephant Journal, and more. Felicia, welcome back to Shifting Dimensions.
Oh, I'm so excited to talk about 2026 and to reflect on 2025 with you.
Yes, absolutely. For those of you who are tuning in for the first time with me talking to Felicia, Felicia was on the show last year where she talked about the universal 9 year, which is what we experienced in 2025. So we're going to recap that. And I wanted her back on the show so that we can get into what to expect for 2026, because it's the universal 1 year. And we're also going to be talking about our individual personal years, how to calculate that, and how that's going to coincide with the universal year. So thank you again, Felicia, for coming back to the show. I want to start off by asking you, how long have you been in numerology and why are you so passionate about this work?
It's been a while now. I published my first book in 2012, so obviously I started doing it far before then, and yet that was the official launch for me. And it's one of those interesting things that I find that numerology kind of found me. I didn't find it. I don't know if you've had that experience in your own life. And for me, it's just an incredible modality that I never tire of it because the numbers never lie. And every time I read a chart or look at something, I'm just the interpreter and the translator at this point. And it's just so amazing to me how much depth of information and knowledge that we can glean about ourselves, about the world, through the code of and the language of numbers.
I love that you said the numbers never lie. I've never heard that before, but I think there's obviously some truth to that because there's an order to this world and there's a lot of coding that goes into this reality. I really do like numerology simply because I get a lot of angel numbers. So I see a lot of repeating numbers. So I'm very fascinated by what numbers mean in general. Okay, let's get into 2025, which was the 9 universal year. I would love to do a recap of what that meant and what we experienced and how that manifested.
Absolutely. So in numerology, we have just a little background here, just to put it into context. There are ways of looking at cycles of time, right? And the universal year is a 1 year cycle that we all go through universally and globally. And it's a very easy math addition problem. You take the year and you add it together. So 2025 is 2 plus 0 plus 2 plus 5, and that equals 9. So in numerology, we're always looking at 9 year cycles, 1 through 9, and then they just rinse and repeat. And so the nine, if I have to, dare I say, was the end of a cycle. So in 2025, it was the end of a 9 year cycle, universally and globally. So when we talk about a universal year, the way to think about it is that it is like it's happening to and for and with all of us in the world, right? So it's more attuned to looking at what's going on politically. What are the conversations and the topics that are going on, again, through our political systems, through our, with weather, with inventions, with new discoveries, with friction and military action, with the financial markets. All of those things we could really tap into in terms of looking at the energy that is directing and supporting all of us globally during that time. Because in numerology, it's not just talk, right? We're just blah, blah, blah. It basically, the idea is that it actually is a frequency, and it is having an impact and an influence, whether or not we know it or believe in it. I've used the metaphor of it's like cell phone reception or gravity or the cloud. We don't need to know how it's functioning, but it is functioning. So in terms of this year 2025, I would say we could all pretty much say, yeah, that seemed like a cataclysmic tornado of something, of a tsunami, and it's been building. We can always point to how intense things are and how life-changing everything is and how unprecedented it is. We can also look to, as you were talking about, these other modalities. For instance, numerology and astrology, I find, work very well together, and they offer a full spectrum experience that we can use as great information and great guidance. Because and I'm not an astrologer, I not at all. So go talk to your astrology folks for the real specifics, but I do follow it enough to know that like all kinds of planets are shifting into something else that we've just had a very unprecedented astrological shift that is happening. And so it's coinciding also with this shift numerologically, where the nine is about endings. It's about closures, completions. It's emotional. It's usually where stuff is happening in your life. If it's a personal year, if it's a universal year, it's for everyone that no one's really that fond of. It's having to say goodbye to things. It's having things that are not relevant anymore or useful for us. They tend to go away, right? Or we have to let them go. And the biggest thing that I will say about the energy of the nine is that it is always clearing the path for new beginnings. So it's every new beginning is some other beginning's end, right? So the nine is clearing the pathway, and the more we can release, the more we can let go, the more we can purge, the better off we're going to be. Now, the issue is, and I don't want to be patronizing here, and yet the real key is that it's not necessarily human nature to be comfortable with change, to be comfortable with uncertainty, and to be comfortable with a liminal space. And what I mean by that is that the nine asks us to let something go and let it go, and then allow ourselves to have that moment of recalibration where it's that desperation of, okay, that went, but now what's going to take its place? What can we insert back in there to fill up this space so that I don't feel nervous or that there's uncertainty or I don't have control over something? So the nine is always really asking us and usually forcing us to be comfortable within that discomfort and to trust that when we are in a liminal space, which is we're not where we were and we're not where we're going, we're on a bridge, whatever metaphor you would like to use, and yet that's the space that we're being asked to occupy globally, with a trust that bigger, not bigger necessarily, better, more expansive is going to meet with us in this upcoming year. And globally, it's an interesting thing because these are big things that we are working with right now in terms of our global community, right? In terms of military action, in terms of climate issues, in terms of financial markets, in terms of AI and what that's doing to everything. And so it's not like this is going to just wrap itself in a tidy bow at the end of 2025. I just want to be clear about that. This is just a purging time where we are globally going to hopefully be able to deal with kind of the necessity is the mother of invention, that sort of idea, where the one is going to be much more supportive of new agendas, new ideas, that entrepreneurial, visionary, the pioneering sort of energy is what the one brings to the table in 2026. Does that make sense
It makes
overall?
perfect sense. And I can't wait to dig deeper a little bit into the one universal year for 2026. But just wanted to touch on everything that you just said regarding the 9 year and what we experience on a global collective level. And I would even say personal as well, because all the things that you're talking about in terms of being able to release things and be okay with being in the liminal space, I can totally relate to that. I always picture like a container with water and all the dirt and nasty stuff rising up to the surface so it can be cleared. That's like the metaphor or the imagery in my head when I think about the universal year 9. And I swear to God, this year I was forced to be in that liminal space. And I've had other experiences in my life where I've had to be in the liminal space. So when I saw this repeating itself, I was very excited because, to your point, it's about clearing old things so that new things can be planted, not necessarily in its place, but new things to be planted for you to experience in order for your life to continue to move forward. So when I think about this year, it feels like I've lived 5 different lives in this one year, but I'm so excited about it. I'm like, this is such a canon year. I don't know if you understand that term, but when we talk about people's lives, people say sometimes they're canon events that are supposed to happen that like really transform your life and put you on your destined path. This year to me felt like a very life-changing, life-altering year. And I'm very excited about it because even though I had to be in that liminal space and release a lot of things, I'm like, I know I'm making way for the new. And it was also a 7 personal year for me. And I will get into that a little bit later. But yeah, I just wanted to affirm everything you just said.
Absolutely, and especially in a seven personal year, it to me, I have noticed that it's my opinion, I guess, is how to say it. The personal year, the seven kind of rivals the nine in terms of loss and a feeling of despair in some ways because the seven is really demanding that you take a very deep dive into your soul, for lack of a better way of saying it, right? It's not even too dramatic to say it that way. And I find it often people in a seven personal year will have things happen to them that are very dramatic and traumatic. And the way I would say that overall, now this is just a brushstroke, but say, for instance, in a nine personal year, you will initiate a divorce, as an example. In a seven personal year, your spouse will surprise you with divorce papers. It's so same event, but a different way that it lands and a different processing that needs to take place.
Absolutely. I could imagine that most people listening to the show have a good sense of what numerology is. And I know we jumped into it, but again, numerology, my understanding of it is being able to understand the frequency of numbers and what they represent and what they mean on a collective and individual level. And even on the individual level, we have different numbers that go into our birth chart, like how in astrology we have different signs that go into our birth chart. So just wanted to again level set. I know people are following the conversation.
Yes, absolutely. And just a moment to differentiate there or to add to it, which is in an astrological chart, you need your date of birth, your time of birth, and your place of birth, right? To derive a full chart. In numerology, you need your full name as it appears on your birth certificate and your date of birth. So when you, to me, it's just a very interesting marriage of all of that information that all of us who follow these modalities believe that it's not. an accident. And people like, but I was born early with a C-section. No, yeah, with a C-section or an emergency, or I was late or whatever. That was your due date given by the doctor. That wasn't so. Those things that we think about, we have to expand our levels of consciousness around that, or even names. I hate my names. It's that fascinating thing about also with parents. If you talk to your parents and you're like, why did you decide on my name? We were deciding about this and that. And then just one day, we just knew it. And so to us, it's our agreement that we have with our parents, and we have our certain name, which forms a certain resonance and a frequency, and it gives us direction in life. And to your point, in numerology, we can do an entire chart, which gives you your life, your core numbers, which tells you what your purpose is, how you're going to do that, what your soul desires, all kinds of other very detailed information. And then we can look at cycles of time that you are here to experience and what you're learning and growing from during those times. So it's a very rich way to forge a pathway that feels validating, right? That we can, there's always free will, there's always all kinds of different ways to do it and to express it, but to at least have a framework feels really empowering to people,
Oh,
is what I
yes,
find. Yeah.
absolutely. It definitely is empowering to me. I don't know everything about numerology, but from the little I know and from what I've seen in my chart, I resonate with a lot of it. And it gives me a framework to better understand myself. Because really and truly, that's what a lot of these modalities are here to help us with, is to get a better understanding of what energies we're working with and what energies are influencing our lives. Okay, let's get into 2026, the universal year number, and how that's going to potentially manifest.
All right, we'll do the math again. Just if anyone's joining us right here, right now, we do the math for the universal year. We take the year and we add it together. So for 2026, it's 2 plus 0 plus 2 plus 6. That equals 10. That might be a little bit confusing because it's a 10. Is it a 10 universal year? So to understand that when we're working with numerology, we are most often, there are a few exceptions, but mostly what we're doing is reducing to a one-digit number. So in this case, we take 1 plus 0, and that equals 1. And that is the number of the universal year for 2026. And as we talked about, we're at 2025, end of the cycle. 2026 beginnings. So all of the I words, independence, initiation, individuality, it's much more forward energy in a one universal year where things could have felt schloggy and lucky and blah, confusing. It doesn't mean that they won't sometimes. And yet the overall energy is much more directive, much more launching, much more lift off with the one. The one is, in its most positive, in my opinion, there's going to be just some really a galvanizing of new ideas that are meant to help us globally as a global community, which would be maybe new ways of understanding healthcare and in terms of those systems, and then new avenues of medications, operations, ways of doing things. I keep hearing things about I went to a lecture last year where someone was talking who knows about these things, was saying that he believes within 3 years that paralysis will be non-existence. Excuse me, will be non-existent. And because of the amazing leaps and bounds that are going with these I'm not a physician, but anyway, that they're doing leaps and bounds with that sort of thing. So that's just one example of things that I feel are going to start really popping in 2026. They're going to begin to take some shape. The biggest, I think, challenge with the one is that the energy around it can be very self-centered. because the one is all about number one. It's all about me. It's all about I'm competitive. I want to win. So I would think that the energy here is not going to help matters in terms of military operations, in terms of those sorts of things that countries are at fisticuffs or in the arm wrestle, whatever you want to call it, that the one doesn't encourage much diplomacy in that way and the energy there. So I would think that might be a little bit of a point of intensity. And but overall, I believe the one is open to pioneering ideas, right? It's really inviting next phase, next stage in a more accelerated way. And so to look at this numerologically, it means that energy is going to be accessible to all of us. So it's fuel, it's something that we all can tap into if that's something that we are wanting to draw from and engage with. We might have great grand ideas. It could be, again, it could be on a grander scale, or it could be in your personal life where, you have a great idea for a business and, or the thing that isn't working in your business. You get the answer for that and you retool and are really able to take it to the next level. Those sorts of things can happen with the one. So the one is a very activating energy, very forward moving. It's fail forward. So it's not like it's going to be this linear path to Eureka Jazz Hands, all the stuff. It's not a liminal pathway. There's a lot of mistakes, there's a lot of errors, there's a lot of, oh, that didn't work, so let's try it this way, sort of thing. So that's also the energy to be aware of in a one universal year. So I would look forward in this year to just feel like things are moving, whether we like where they're moving or whatever, but they're moving in a way that maybe they weren't moving in 2025. And it's going to encourage all of us to look into the future, and we get to decide what we want that point, what we want to put at the center of that, right? And do we want to make this a better world for everyone? And how are we going to do that? Or do we want to make it for the chosen few? I do feel like those are very big, big containers of issues that are going to be really investigated and acted upon even more so in 2026.
That's very fascinating. Just to make sure I fully understand, the 1 year is about forward movement. You said something that was very interesting about failing forward. If you fall or your new idea isn't the best, you pick it, pick something else up and you keep moving forward. So it's about moving forward, but also being cognizant on a collective level how we want to move forward. And I
Yeah,
know that it's not just this year, but it's going to be a continuous process. But I think what you're saying is, or what I'm understanding is that next year is going to be a pivotal year for us to figure out what direction we want to move in as humanity. And does that sound too
absolutely.
dramatic?
No, it really doesn't. And even to use a metaphor for this, it is a seed planting year.
Mm,
So and yet it always sounds so, okay, just plant your seeds. And what kind of seeds are you planting? What are you growing? Are you growing an herb garden? Are you gonna grow, you're gonna farm fish? What are you growing? So you have to determine what seeds you want to plant, and then you've got to get the proper environment and the soil, and then you've got to. I could build and build and get the minutia of the minutia, but it's not just plop a seed in the ground like Jack and the Beanstalk and watch it grow. Sometimes I guess it could be, but the whole energy of the one is about really being self-determined and eyes wide open and making firm stand on your own 2 feet decisions about what direction you're headed in and what do you want? What are you reaching for? What do you want to build and create? And
mm.
in that way, it offers a lot of very interesting choices, interesting options that I think we're going to be looking at very directly as this year unfolds.
So it's about planting that seed, but not just planting it and leaving it. It's about planting it and watering it, making sure that it's healthy and it grows well. And I
Yeah.
found that for me, Because when you hear these things, or when I hear these things sometimes in the past, I'd be like, oh, okay, maybe I need to align myself with this energy and prepare for it. But I found that it takes shape naturally. I know that we had this conversation last year about the nine universal year and what to expect. And after we had the conversation, I pretty much didn't really think about it. But then as the year came around and certain things were unfolding in my life, I'm like, oh, I remember the conversation. So it takes shape naturally to find yourself in a position where those frequencies from the number and also from the personal year number start to influence us. And I kind of want to shift gears and talk a little bit more about the personal year. What is that in the numerological chart? Like, for example, I know that in astrology, and I know that you're not an astrologist, but just to create an analogy for the listeners. So I know that we have like our sun sign, our moon sign, then we have our ascendant, etc. So where does the personal year fit in our chart and how do we get that number?
The personal year, in terms of looking at it as an astrological equivalent, is more like a solar return, right? So in that way, it's the energy that is supporting your theme. It's the I call it the theme to your party, right? Because it's much nicer to look at it that way. And the interesting thing about the personal year is it is the most, I have found, immediate energy that we feel. And I love that you brought it up that we don't have to be over focused on this. We don't have to be in our heads and thinking about it all the time. This is something that we're feeling. And sometimes it's even better to reflect on it a little bit later rather than need to read your little forecast or something every day before you get up. That's just, if someone can't get out of bed without reading their astrology or numerology, I'm like, you need to toss that and you need to relax a minute, right? Because it's unfolding and it's happening whether we want to control it or not. So, to your point here, though, is that the personal year is that theme to your party, and it is offering you very supportive energy. And then it's really good to understand the challenges that might come into play or the opposition that can happen. It's always very good, just like in astrology, but in numerology, I like to pull forward the themes, the basic characteristics, I would call the optimal expression of the number. But then you always know that when you're working with that number, you're going to be dealing with the opposite. So let's say you're in a five personal year, which is all about freedom, you're going to feel restricted. If it's about fearlessness, you're going to have some fear. Right. So it's that's when you start just playing with these modalities and you begin to be able to work that for yourself. And then there are two different ways of looking at the personal year. All right. I don't want to complicate things, but I am a numerologist who often calls out the different modes of thought or different schools of thought. Yes.
Yeah, I just want to clarify something really quickly before we get into how you calculate the personal year. So I know that you said the personal year is like the theme to the party might be synonymous to a Saturn return in astrology, but just
No,
to
no, no.
clarify,
Solar
solar
return.
return. Okay.
Yes.
Okay,
Yes.
okay. I
Yeah.
don't know what a solar
Two
return.
different things.
Okay, okay. I heard Saturn return, for example. So solar returns, are they yearly in
Yeah,
astrology?
they're from birthday to birthday.
Oh, okay, okay.
Yeah, yeah.
Okay,
And
so same thing with the personal year. It's birthday to birthday or year to year, and we're going to
it can
talk about
be,
it.
yeah, we'll
Yeah.
talk about that. And
Okay.
also, and there's not a perfect astrological lineup here, but I would also say that sometimes a personal year could be looked at a transit, like something in your chart that is transiting and giving you certain lessons at a certain amount of time, at a certain time. I don't know if that makes sense, but.
That does make sense.
Okay, so if we go back around to this personal year, so I'm going to attempt to make it as not the least amount of confusion is what I would like. So, two ways of doing the personal year. And it is the first one that is the easiest one to comprehend and what most people abide by, which is it's a calendar year. January 1st through December 31st is the personal year. And then the second school of thought is that it is a personal year like a solar return in astrology. So your own personal year would run from birthday to birthday. So if you have a January birthday or February, it still makes a difference, but not as much. But if your birthday is in mid-year, if it's December 31st, it makes a big difference, right? So the way to think about that is that if first of all, what I'll say is that I'm sure you're out there going, okay, Felicia, are you going to give us the spoiler alert? What's the real one? What do you do? And I'm sorry I got to break it to you, but it's all up to each of us, each and every one of us. We have to feel into it. We have to decide what feels right to us. I'll work with clients and do this, and I will start talking about the energy of the year, and they're like, oh, yeah, it's this for me. Or that because depending on what's been going on and how it feels to me, right? So keep that in mind. You are the master of your own existence here, and you get to make that determination. So now, the way that you would understand that is that you would calculate your personal year based on the year that you experienced your last birthday. Okay. So what I'm going to do is this. I'm going to talk about briefly how to do this calculation. It's very easy overall. If you would like to know what your personal year is, you need your month of birth and your day of birth. Your year of birth is not used in this calculation, okay?
Mm,
Instead of your year of birth, what is used is the year that you want to know what your personal year, okay?
okay.
So you were born on September 26th. So we're going to take September. That is a 9 because it is the ninth month. So that goes all the way through until, but let's say you're born in December. It's a 12. You take 1 plus 2, that equals 3. So if you're born in December, your month is a 3. All right. So now we'll do the day. It's 26th. We do the same thing. 2 plus 6, that equals 8. So if you have some other configuration where you get two numbers out of that, then you keep reducing to a one-digit number. All right, now, if we want to know the year-to-year version, the calendar year, 2026 is a number 1. We talked about that, right? The one universal year. So then we would add this all together as a simple math problem. So September is 9 plus the 26 is 8 plus 2026 is 1. So 9 plus 8 plus 1. So that's 9, 10, 18. And 1 plus 8 is 9.
Oh my gosh. It's showing that I'm in the 9 year. That's so interesting.
Let's correct it. Let's do it again.
Mm,
Okay. Because I will always say when you're wrong, when you're off in numerology, you're really off. Okay. One number is a huge number to be off. And so I always say it's like carpentry, measure twice, cut once,
okay.
add twice and get
Okay.
down to
But
those.
just can I just ask something really quickly? So
Yes.
since it's from birthday to birthday, right? So my birthday this year, 9/26/2025. So how I calculated it was using this, I used 2025 to get my personal year number, and I'm assuming that's
Mhm.
going to last up until 9/26/2026, and then using that year to calculate it. So,
Correct.
okay.
Correct. So if we go birthday to birthday for you, which
Hmm.
is I'm understanding that's what you're doing, you are in a number 8 personal year until your birthday on September 26th.
Which would be the 9 year. Okay.
And
Okay.
then you switch over to the 9.
Okay. Okay. Got it.
Okay.
Right.
Yeah. So you're still in the 8 until your birthday. And so to that point, to do the calculation from birthday to birthday, you would look at, so we're recording on December 11th.
Mm.
So on December 11th, 2025, your last birthday was in 2024.
Right.
So you would have been in a 7 from your birthday in 2024 to your birthday in 2025.
Yes.
Okay, that makes sense.
Yes.
Okay. So that was a 7. Then from 2025, you're in an 8 until 2026.
Yes. Till my
And
birthday
then
next year. Yeah.
exactly. And then at 2026, you can move into a 9 that ends in 2027. Okay.
Yes. And that's like the birthday to birthday. But if we were doing
That's the
it,
birthday to birthday.
but if we're doing it from year to year, January 1st to December 31st, then I would technically
Be starting a 9
nine. Yeah.
on January 1st. So for you, you're almost September 26th. That's almost 10 months.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Till I get to
So
the
that
nine.
so that makes a difference.
Yeah, it does. And the reason to your point earlier, you said that if you want to do year to year or birthday to birthday, which is still year to year, just a different way of calculating it, you have to feel into the energy. And I feel massive energy shifts on my birthday. Over the last
Exactly.
couple of years, I've been
That's what a
feeling,
lot of people will say.
yes, I feel massive energy shifts. And again, so just to recap for people so that you're not confused. So if you're doing birthday to birthday, my understanding is, so if your birthday this year was July 10th, 2025, you're going to calculate your personal year number like with the July 10th, 2025, and that's going to give you your personal year number up until July 10th, 2026.
Correct.
So your personal year number can start before the new year. So that it just in case you're not confused. You
Yes.
could have two personal year numbers influencing a universal year
Exactly.
if you were to do birthday to birthday.
That is the point that I would love to hit home with is that it's a little wonkier, right? It's going to feel like more, but once again, I work with a lot of people who are like, oh my gosh, you couldn't deny the difference. And it was in alignment on the around the birthday time. So anyway, it is up to each of us to decide how it works for us, how it works for us,
So
how it feels.
could we do the year to year calculation? So if how would I know for sure my personal year number if I was doing January 2026 to December 2026? Wouldn't we all end up with the same
So if
personal
we,
year?
so for you, nope, you would go September is a 9, the 26th is an 8, and
Mhm.
2026 is a 1. So that equals 18,
Okay, okay, I
and
got
1
it.
plus 8 equals 9. So you would start your 9 at the beginning of 2026 rather than on your birthday in
Oh,
2026.
okay. That's important to distinguish because I think that's
Yes.
why we got confused at the beginning
Mhm.
because we were calculating, for some reason, I thought we were calculating birthday to birthday, but we were calculating year to year. So
Correct.
to clarify for the audience,
Yes.
so if you're like, you feel more of an energetic shift for you when it's January 1st and you want to calculate your personal year number looking from January 1st to January 31st, you're still going to calculate it by using your birthday, even though it hasn't happened in the year. So if your birthday again is in July 2026, you're going to calculate your birthday and the year. And that's how
Correct.
you're going to get your personal year number for the whole year. Now, if you want to do birthday to birthday, meaning you have an energetic shift on your birthday rather than January 1st, for example, you want to calculate your birthday of the current year or previous year you were in. So, like, for example, if you're listening to this,
Your
um,
last birthday, like what
yeah, your last,
year do
yes,
you
yes,
experience your last birthday? So for
yes,
me, I have a July birthday. My last birthday was in July 2025. So
right,
I would calculate my personal year to be with the 9 universal year up until July in 2026, when I'll
yes,
shift it over to the 1 universal year.
exactly. Yes, you go by your last birthday. Okay, glad that so again, because I like to
Sorry, everyone, you
no,
had to endure that.
no, I had to run the point home. And it's good. I think it's good
Yes.
because I hope they really get it. So again, to just really recap, make it as simple as possible. Year to year, you calculate your birthday, almost like future projection, like your birthday, even if it hasn't happened for the 2026. For birthday to birthday, you calculate your last birthday. most likely 2025 year. So if you're listening to this February 2026, you want to calculate your last birthday if it was in 2025.
Correct.
Okay. All
Got
right.
it.
Got it. Okay. So um,
Hopefully.
I hope so. If you guys
I
didn't get
hope
it,
so.
comment and we will clarify.
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay. So I want to shift into personal year numbers and how they could be influenced by the universal year. For example, if the universal year in 2026 is one, how does someone who's experiencing the one personal year also interact with the year, so on and so forth?
Absolutely. So let's go through these. We'll go through 1 through 9 and just a brief. There's a lot of information here, and we're going to do just a little nutshell for each one. But think about the one universal year as the backdrop of that's going to be playing behind us, all of us. And yet our personal year is what's feet on the ground, what's going on in your personal life, right? So, a one universal year, if you're in a one personal year, think about it. You got double the pleasures and double the urgencies and double the issues that can come with that. And I would just say that this is a very dynamic time for you if you're in a one personal year in 2026 at any point, if you're in a one. And I would think that there are major, more substantial breakthroughs, more more dramatic changes that are going to take place in your world if you will allow it and invite it in. I would just say if you're in a one personal year and a one universal year, the sidebar there is that if you are in a one personal year and a one universal year, that means that you track all your life with the same energy of the universal year and personal year from the time you're born till the time you die. So it might explain a few things about your life that you feel like things are a little bit more. Maybe they're just a little extra for you. So with that, the prediction I would say is that you've got to really get your fierce independence, tag on to that individuality. It's often really a time where you're tested to stand up for yourself. So, depending on where you are in your life, it could be that you're really going to be tested to get out of a dependent relationship. Or maybe it's a time where you're an entrepreneur and you are really launching your business and it's going to be huge, but you've got to really manage that. And it's a time where leadership is being called. So to be the leader of your own life, or if you are a leader in any way in your career or in other aspects, it'll give you opportunities to strengthen that. And it'll also give you opportunities as challenges to challenge you to step up to that. All right. So if you're in a two personal year in a one within that one universal year, very different energy. Okay. So you've got all the stuff going on around you, but you and your two are going to be in slow motion. So if you can understand that and not get frustrated by it, often a two personal year for those who are very achievement oriented type A, it'll drive you nuts because the two is basically designed as a resting period for you because you've just come out of the 8, the 9, and the 1, which is a 3-year transition cycle in numerology. So the 2 is where all that stuff you put into place in your 1 gets to gestate, right? It's almost like a pregnancy, or again, if we still use that metaphor about planting the seeds and it's watering them, watching them, you have to attend to it on occasion. But what are you doing when you're not, right? When you're just waiting. So there's a lot of waiting. The 2 is about patience. It's about right timing. It's about really understanding when things are 2 steps forward and 5 steps back, that there's a reason for it and not to get frustrated and to turn your attention instead to your emotional life, to your relationship life, to developing your emotional intelligence and maturity during a two personal year. All right. But again, there's going to be a lot of opposition that's going to happen. So a three personal year during a one universal year. They can work pretty well together because the three is the number of creative self-expression, about joy. As a personal year, it is your year to shine, to travel, to shake it up, to follow your curiosity. It's a time where you're finding what brings you pleasure, what brings you joy, and do more of that. It's about self-improvement in terms of being authentic, in terms of exploring your creative side. If you want to go, if you've always wanted to, I don't know, take hip hop dance class lessons, go do it, right? And don't do it because it's strategic, do it because it's fun during a three, because that's going to move things around for you. That's going to move energy in other parts of your life. On the flip side of that, it can be a time where you feel depressed. It can be a time where there's some emotional trauma that really needs to move up and out. It's also, so it's really good for therapy. It's good for all kinds of holistic ways of dealing with these things. And if you are an artist or a content provider, this is your year to absolutely go in head first and just do not let self-doubt stand in the way. Just really do that kind of creative production. With the one, it's going to really, the one again is more about entrepreneurial energy, more about all those creative ideas. So it's very supportive of the number three. So the four personal year, after that three where things were fun, you get to get a little bit more serious during a four personal year. It feels more serious. It feels like batten down the hatches and where you're looking at where you are in your life and where you want to go. It's like you're laying out your life's mission statement going, is this still, what I is this still valid at all? So it's about structure in your life. It's about getting things in order that you want to get systematized in some way that will make your life much better and more effective down the line. It can bring in some need for health preventative measures because we can get really workaholic in a four personal year. And it's the number of limitation as well. So it feels a little hard sometimes, but just keep at it and keep the goal in mind. It's time for really mapping out long-term goals. Mixed with the one energy, it could feel a little better in terms of not so arduous, maybe, but still you've got to be able to stay on task and stay focused and not be sucker punched by the bright and shiny objects. It's going to be a time where you need to really focus and follow through. So then if we take that one universal energy with the five personal year, this is, oh, I don't know, TNT. Boom. The five is midpoint of the nine personal year cycle. So it is a time of pivoting. It's a time of change. The basic question being asked during a five is how can I create more freedom in my life? In whatever way I want to create freedom. Is it financial freedom? Is it health? Is it in your relationships? It's sometimes where you leave a relationship or where it's should I stay? It's this catalytic energy. I'm not saying it very well. I'm being very five as I say it. I'm not able to finish a sentence. That's the energy of a five. So the five is basically an energy that is very unfiltered. So it feels like a lot. And it's like there's new people and new things and new experiences. It's a time for travel. It's a time for curiosity and exploration. It is really your year of saying yes. And Shonda Rhimes, didn't she do a book or a TED talk or her year of saying yes to everything? Go read that book during your five, because that will really inform you how to really take advantage of that energy. But because the five is about freedom, it's about fearlessness, it's about facing your fears and all of that, there's going to be fear. There's going to be fears just up on a silver platter for you. And it can bring in excesses. So if you have addictive tendencies, if you are working with that, it might bring it to a crescendo for you. And it can be a time where we feel very trapped, very tethered, very unfree. right? We're not free. So how do I get some freedom around there? So that's the 5. And the 1, again, is just going to add fuel to that fire, okay, about making those decisions. So the 6 is very much different than the 5. The 6 is more about home and family and relationships. It's about responsibility. It's drawing you in to take some responsibility and look at your relationship life. I always like to say the question being asked in a 6 personal year is, first of all, should it stay or should it go? Or should I stay or should I go? And the second question is, how do I love? And how do I want to be loved? So those are key features for that. In business, it can be a very magnetic, magnanimous time as long as you're stepping up to your responsibilities, but also not overstepping your responsibilities. So if you're someone who doesn't take responsibility, it's going to push you into stepping up and taking more responsibility in your life. If you are someone who overfunctions and takes responsibility for everyone, you will get messages and lessons in that regard as well. So you're going to have to learn to balance those aspects. Along with the 1, the 6 is very much of a visionary energy, very long, big picture, and that marries very well with the number 1. And this could be a year because the 6 is again marriage and divorce time in relationships. It's often when someone will get married or will get a divorce. Just is this working or is it not? And it comes to a head, right? In a 6. That with the 1 is more about your independence and feeling that sense of wanting to have your independence. So then if we have the 7 personal year, this is a navel gazing time. This is a spiritually activated year. It feels much more hermity. It's all about study and reflection and soul seeking in so many ways. This is not a year to really push forward your career and financial expansion. Okay, just heads up. And if you push on that too hard, it just blows back in your face every time in a 7 personal year. What you are doing is getting ready. So you are working with readying yourself for the upcoming year, which would be 2027, which would be an 8 if you're in your 7. So the 7 is designed for you to really get into who you are on a spiritual level, to connect that way. It's all about researching, knowledge gathering. It's really a time for organizing and digesting all of that. And then you'll be ready with everything you need to be ready with for launching into something else. So it can feel that 7 can feel hard. It can feel arduous. And I think people often in a 7 feel a little bit like a victim, like they'll bring up whatever it is they feel has been done to them and ruminate on that. And so it's an offering there's a wonderful numerologist named Dr. Juno Jordan, and she says the 7 personal year is the year to develop the right state of mind. Sounds easy, but not really. Right? No. With that 7, with the 7 with the 1, an interesting interplay. It's an interesting interplay. It could really catalyze your self reflection. And I would just say and it can give you a lot to really deep dive with across the board, if that makes any sense whatsoever. All right. So the 8 personal year with that 1, these are both of the most intense business oriented numbers, in my opinion, in numerology, the 8 and the 1. So if you are someone who's wanting to really launch something bigger, better, whatever that is, change your career or get a promotion or anything and everything having to do with that, it is your year. Because the 8 personal year is a time to deal with your finances. It's where you wake up every morning and go to bed every night thinking about your finances. And if they're strong and good, you want to keep them there or keep them going even more. And if you're really struggling, it's a time to get really serious about yourself. and to go, I got to get serious here. I got to make some practical, pragmatic decisions about my life, about my finances. Again, the 8 is about power and empowerment. So it can be finances, yes, but it could also be, where is your level of personal empowerment? For instance, not to be too dramatic, but if you're in an abusive relationship, that it's your year where it's going to get worse. It's really going to push you to go, are you really going to settle for this? Is this really what you want? So it can be that, as well as it can be financial, and it can be all of the above. It's like boot camp. It's like a year of boot camp. It really is. Okay. So just get ready. And the 1 and the 9, very different energies, right? Because the 1 is about beginnings and initiate those initiating sort of energies that move forward. And the 9 is about releasing and letting go. They can move. I think that the one universal energy can catalyze the 9 energy, but it doesn't mean that it'll be painless. It really is something that I find is an interesting dynamic between the two. But I would say overarchingly, my take would be, if you are in a 9 personal year in 2026 in any capacity, get ready for some big changes, for some more dramatic changes in a good way. Ultimately, it might not feel good at the time, it will, but you know what I'm saying? It's just pushing a whole different life, a whole different mindset, a whole different way of valuing things. It's just going to push it, I think, in that way, more in a more substantial way than maybe it has been pushed in the past.
That was great. That was such a great summary of how each personal year will be playing, or the interplay between the universal year and each personal year. Thank you so much for sharing that. For people who are listening and they're like, again, if I'm a 3 year, this is what you said about the 3 year, because it seemed like you were talking about the good energies that go around with the numbers, but also everything has a shadow aspect, a potential challenge, something to look out for. How much of this should people keep in mind, or how much do they need to understand that at the end of the day, they have free will and they can determine the trajectory of their life or what they want to experience, but this is just a good to know.
Absolutely. And I am someone who I like to, or I prefer to emphasize the positive. That's just my gig. It's just what I like. I don't like the fear mongering and all of the other stuff, even though it might be good for clicks. I just don't feel like it's good for any other reason. And yet I find knowing some of the potential challenges, pitfalls, whatever you want to call them, I think that's pretty valuable if you don't take it in and embody it personally, if that makes sense. If you can look at it from a rational distance, right? If you're at, for instance, in a one personal year, you can be really self-centered and belligerent and not accept help from other people or not take constructive criticism. Sometimes people in a one personal year kind of crash and burn because of their arrogance. If you know that, and a lot of people go, that's not going to be me. And yet, if you're experiencing something and you're really angry that this keeps happening, then I think one of the powerful things that these tools are there for us is to be self-reflective and to be able to not beat ourselves up and not anything else but go, oh gosh, yeah, I do that. Or to be able to reflect in the back. I don't know about you. I'm much older now. I can look at things that I've done in the past and go, wow, that was something. But to be have a kindness about it also in that regard, because in a 2 personal year, you're going to be really emotionally sensitive. And sometimes if you have no boundaries, if you're an empath, you will be held hostage. You will be miserable. because you're thinking that all of this stuff is happening to you and it's horrible and what do they think and all of that. And that can be an energy that is very accentuated in a two personal year. The three, I talked about depression, and that's very real. Most people I know in a three personal year experience a dip that they may or may not call depression, but depending on how much of that they have in their life, usually. And a four can feel just absolutely unbearably difficult. And it's like they're banging their head, we're banging our head against the wall, and everyone else is going, someone else who, I don't know. An example would be, oh, you all I want to do is get my simple website up for my new business. And your other friend or colleague, they're like, yeah, me too. And they get theirs done and they get the best developer and they give them a discount and it goes up and it's no problem. And you are working on yours for 9 months straight. You have put so much money, no one can deliver. You've had to do it, all of those things. So sometimes the nice thing is that this is not happening just randomly. And what am I learning from this? What is the real lesson here? And if we resonate with the numbers, we could understand that the lesson is always going to be in the thematic in of the number. And we can use that to our advantage. And it doesn't mean that it was funny. I was listening to something the other day by this woman. She's deceased now, Sylvia Brown. And she was a psychic, and she was one of the first people who wrote all these books about it. She was really put herself out there in that way. But there was a little video and someone saying, what do I do? Or how do I become more spiritual? I want to become more spiritual. And Sylvia Brown was quite caustic. She was really something. And it always, I don't know, when you say that, really, you want to become more spiritual? I'm telling you right now, it's not you become more spiritual and the doors open wide and the angels sing and things just flow and everything. No, it's just the opposite. Things get hard. Where things used to be easy when you're on a spiritual path, they get real hard, real fast. And I'm paraphrasing her here. She said it much differently. But I think that's the other thing that we're looking at is that when we want to make some sense out of this, when we want to use these tools, it's not going to be easy because easy isn't what we signed up for. The more that I do this kind of work, the more I realize that your soul and your higher self wants to experience as many things as it possibly can. And so that's going to lead you to not, a lot of people don't want to make mistakes. They want to sit in the corner. They want to be safe. They want to whatever. That's not what you came here for, right?
Yes. Yeah,
Yeah.
absolutely. You're spot on. I think what I've come to realize is that it's hard when you are fighting what you're being intuitively guided to do or sit in. And I think when you first go on the spiritual journey, I think we're always on that path, whether we are aware of it or not. I do think we're spiritual beings having a human experience. So everything we do, I do believe, is spiritual to some level. Even waking up in the morning and grabbing coffee, there's that rhythm and pattern that I do think there's a
Mhm.
spiritual aspect to it. But I digress. The point is, when you intentionally set yourself up to go down a spiritual path, it can be hard because you're deconstructing what you're used to, the life that you're used to. But I think there's a part you get to in your journey where it starts to feel easy because you're not fighting it. For me, I was in the personal year 7 last birthday, or 2024 into 2025, I
Mhm.
should say. And the things I was experiencing, normally I would fight it. Like, what's going on? I don't have energy to get things done. I just feel like I'm in this space where I'm like reflecting, thinking about my life and doing some soul searching, but I want to take action. And when I realized that it wasn't necessarily the year of taking like an abundant amount of action, but taking strategic action. And in order for me to get the awareness of the action that I'm supposed to take, I'm supposed to reflect and just sit down and be present. So I think when you get to a point where you're not fighting it and you're allowing your intuition to guide you, it can be very easy to be in flow, but it can be disruptive at the same time if you're not used to it and you're trying to still project control onto the things that you're experiencing. So I just wanted to
Absolutely.
add that as well.
I just love what you just said because it's so relevant. And it reminds me of one time I heard Carolyn Mace speak about, and someone was like, what's the difference between just having a fantasy and intuition? She was trying to really call her on it. And Carolyn was so great. She said, your intuition always is uncomfortable. Fantasy is something that is giving you what you want to hear and what you want. Your intuition is always going to feel risky, uncomfortable. It's going to push you to do something that you would never have normally done. And again, I'm paraphrasing her, but I thought it was a wonderful way of talking about that because it's not, once you do get in the flow of your intuition, it's still, you still have to do the kind of pseudo crazy things that it's leading you to do. And you have to be able to do that. And
Absolutely.
yeah, it's really fascinating. And it's to your point, it becomes fun
When you know
to,
what,
yeah, to even have, even when things should be horrible and hard. I was thinking the other day that there's a lot of drama going on around me right now, and
mm,
I could really get involved if I wanted to. And it's not that I'm very empathetic and I'm compassionate for it, but I'm at this place where I know that it doesn't involve me and I can hold some space, but I'm not holding it in a way that is depleting me or making me resentful or all those other things. And that takes, or it's taken me a very long time to figure that out. But then even the difficulties become fun. They become part of the program. Yeah.
yes, absolutely. I relate to what you're saying about intuition not necessarily feeling comfortable. I think you can get comfortable with it, but the first time, and there are levels to intuition. There's some intuition
Mhm.
where like you're going down a certain path every single day and you get told to go into a different direction that might not necessarily be scary. But there have been things that my intuition has impressed upon me to take action on this year that to a lot of people seem nonsensical. Even to me, they seem impractical. But I get excited when my intuition is that loud about doing something that seems so out there because I feel like that's where the magic lies. And
Exactly.
yeah, I think if more people realize that if you are trying to change your life or shift into a new version of yourself or a reality that has more of the things that you're looking for, sometimes you have to do something that is very different to your standard routine. You literally have to reset the program. And I think that's our way of energetically resetting the
Hmm.
program or the frequency that we're on is by doing something very different to what we typically do. So this was a great conversation.
No, thank you. I just really enjoy speaking with you. It's so much fun and it has its own, it has a life of its own, which I love.
Yes, I love that too. Thank you. I have to ask you this question because I asked this to all my guests before I let you go. And that is, have you shifted in perspective on anything recently? Or I could say in the past year, since we're having this conversation at the end of
Oh
the year.
goodness. I think I just talked about one of those is
Mm,
about involvement in things that would have pulled me in the
mm,
past don't pull me in the same way. And it doesn't make me a cold, detached person. It just has made me look at things very much from a different lens.
yes, that's powerful. Thank you for
Mhm.
sharing that. Where can people find you if they want to get a numerology reading from you, or just learn more about you in general?
That would be my website, which is feliciabender.com.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Felicia, for stopping by Shifting Dimensions.